Hi everybody, welcome to Dopey's Brook. I am Amber and I hope you guys are having a wonderful day today. We are going to read a story by George Takei. It's called My Lost Freedom, a Japanese-American World War II story, illustrated by Michelle Lee. On the little sleeve here it says, February 19th, 1942. George Takei's 5-year-old life changes forever. The U.S. government claimed anyone of Japanese descent was an enemy due to the bombing of Pearl Harbor. George and his family had committed no crime. They were American in every way. But because they looked like the enemy, they were forcibly removed from their home. My Lost Freedom is Star Trek actor, activist, and American icon George Takei's story about growing up in Japanese-American incarceration camps during World War II. It's about how Daddy and Mama kept their family safe in their new homes in the Santa Anita racetrack, swampy Camp Rower, and desolate Tulake, surrounded by barbed wire and armed soldiers. And this is a picture of him. Hi, I'm George Takei, an 87-year-old actor. I have lived long, how do they do that? Like that? And prospered, as we said on the sci-fi television show Star Trek, in which I played Hikaru Sulu. I gotta look it up because I tried to watch Star Trek as a kid and I'd fall asleep. And I'd probably like it now. Hikaru Sulu. From my many years of living and acting, I have countless fond memories, some fantastical, some scary, and some amazing. I have memories of soaring through the galaxy driving a starship with a crack team of mates from a small blue planet called Earth. We were all different. We had different skin colors, different backgrounds, and different faiths. Yet we all worked together as a team, all contributing to our own unique talent, knowledge, and ideas. We found our strength in our differences, one that made our lives more interesting, more engaging, and more vibrant. As we said on Star Trek, infinite diversity and infinite combinations. I gotta check it out. But I also have memories of when our differences became our devastation. When Japan attacked Pearl Harbor on December 7th, 1941, my world turned horribly upside down. I am a Japanese American. My grandparents and my father came to America from Japan. My father spoke both English and Japanese fluently. He was American in every way except for his birthplace. However, our two countries, the United States and Japan, were now at war with each other. America saw us as the enemy simply because we looked like people who did the bombing. We were seen as different from other Americans. This was unfair. We were Americans who had nothing to do with Pearl Harbor, yet we were imprisoned behind barbed wire fences. I have a happier memory from a time before soldiers took us away to prison camps. My friend Donald had a giggly laugh and soft, curly blonde hair. My hair was black and shinier. We were different, but we had fun playing together. After the soldiers came, I never saw Donald again. I write this book on the wish that my childish friendship with Donald could have grown up to have the same kind of bond I enjoyed in the future world of Star Trek. I'm going to take off the sleeve because it's going to get distracting for me. I am a grandson and son of immigrants. My father was brought to San Francisco when he was a boy by his father, a widower. My mother was born in Sacramento, California, to parents who had immigrated. Like all immigrants to America, my father and my grandparents came to this country boldly seeking a new life and opportunities. So this is a picture drawn out of his mama at 10 years old and a picture of his daddy at 12 years old. Sorry, I'm trying to make sure y'all can see. I was just 4 years old when Japan bombed Pearl Harbor on the island of Hawaii on December 7th, 1941, and the lives of all Japanese Americans were suddenly and drastically changed. The next day, Franklin Delano Roosevelt declared war on Japan. February 19th, 1942, now commemorated as the Day of Remembrance, was a day that we Japanese Americans will never forget, when the president ordered all Japanese Americans on the West Coast to be rounded up and jailed in prison camps. It was all scary and confusing. I was grateful that Daddy took charge and Mama was brave. This is the story of how they cared for my siblings, Henry and Reiko, and me, and kept us safe. If you guys want to pause and stop and read that, that's... Bang, bang, bang! U.S. Army soldiers pounded on the door. They ordered us to leave our home on Garnet Street in Los Angeles. We took only what we could carry and were sent to Santa Anita racetrack. Each family was assigned a horse stall to sleep in, still stinky from the stench of horse manure. Mama said it was humiliating. Daddy remained silent, but I thought it would be fun to sleep where the horses slept. The stalls were full of creepy bugs, flying insects and germs. Baby Reiko was the first to get sick, then I did too. Our mama lovingly cared for us. A few months later, we moved again, this time by train. I asked Daddy why. After a while, he said, "We're going on a long vacation in the country." 2 treats, a ride, and a vacation in the country? I thought every vacation by train had unsmiling soldiers with rifles stationed at both ends of each car. Mama's duffel bag was the best thing about it. Whenever any of us got bored, she reached into that bag and pulled out a lollipop or a picture book or our very own water canteen. We journeyed 3 days and 2 nights, and finally our train huffed through the green lushness of Arkansas to our destination, Camp Roar. The soldiers walked up and down the train aisle, roaring like lions. They didn't scare me at all. They sounded silly. Then one of our young men shouted, We're approaching Camp Roar now." That's what the soldiers were trying to say. Roar. And I couldn't believe this was our vacation place. It was a sweltering hot late summer day at Block 6, Barrack 2, Unit F, our new home. Before we went inside, Daddy opened the 3 windows and one door to cool the unit down. When we finally entered, a black pot-bellied stove greeted our sweat-drenched family. It was a cruel joke. Mama placed her heavy duffel bag on top of the suitcases. "I show you something now," she stated. She reached in and lifted out a compact wooden box. She pulled on a handle. Up popped her portable sewing machine. Daddy whispered, "This was forbidden. All mechanical things with sharp points and edges were prohibited." "I know," Mama said matter-of-factly. "But children be needing new clothes in camp." Daddy burst out in uncontrollable laughter. Mama joined in, and Henry and I did too, without understanding why. Mama plunged into her new task of making a cozy dwelling for us. She found army surplus fabrics and sewed window curtains. She gathered rags, tore them into strips, and braided them into colorful rugs. She asked a kind neighbor, Mr. Yamada, to make a table and a tiny chair from scrap lumber. Even Mama made sculpture out of twisting and curving plant branches. Mama even made sculpture out of twisting and curving plant branches. I'm struggling, y'all. I gotta get some water in a second. Wet my whistle. Woohoo! We on Block 6 were many kinds of people. Farmers and fishermen, shopkeepers and doctors, truck drivers and school teachers. We were as young as baby Reiko and as old as 80-year-old Mrs. Cato. We were a mix of Ise, immigrants and American-born Nese. Some were from hot, dry Arizona. Some were from wet, green Oregon. Most of us were from northern, central, and southern California. We were all so different, yet we had one thing in common. We were all Japanese American. We needed to work together as a community. We needed a bond that would tie us together. Daddy spoke Japanese and English fluently, so he could relate to both immigrants and the American-born generation. Daddy was determined to not allow the gloom, despair, and suppressed anger to take over the camp. He volunteered in all sorts of ways, delivering cots, helping in emergencies, and calming down people who were upset. Daddy was elected block manager of Block 6 so that he could represent our issues to the camp administration. Since baseball was popular in Block 6, Daddy suggested building a diamond. Before long, the whole block was cheering at the games. Daddy arranged for Japanese folk song nights. Daddy arranged for Japanese folk song nights for the elders and dances for the teenagers. I remember hearing the big band music of Benny Goodman and Tommy Dorsey wafting over the night air as I drifted off to sleep. Camp Roar was a strange and magical place. We'd never seen trees rising out of murky waters or such colorful butterflies. Our block was surrounded by a drainage ditch, home to tiny, wiggling black fishies. I scooped them up into a jar. One morning they had funny bumps. Then they lost their tails and their legs popped out. They turned into frogs. But to Mama, everything Aurora was dangerous. Oh, a bunny? So a bunny? She was worried. I began kindergarten at Roar as we recited with liberty and justice for all from the Pledge of Allegiance. I could see the fence and the sentry tower right outside my schoolhouse window. I was too young to know that those words meant the very opposite of being guarded by soldiers in a barbed wire camp. One cold winter morning, I woke up and looked out on a breathtaking sight, soft, new-fallen snow. Before long, we had our first and best family snowball fight ever, a perfect way to get ready for Christmas. On Christmas Day, we waited eagerly in the mess hall. Ho, ho, ho! In waddled in Santa Claus. But he looked nothing like Santa Claus. He was Japanese, a fake Japanese Santa. I kept the secret to myself because the other kids were so happy to meet this Santa. Maybe the soldiers had kept out the real Santa. We had been at Roar for a year when the government changed its mind. Now they needed our young men and women to serve in the war. But all of us Japanese Americans have been classified as enemy aliens. How could enemies serve as U.S. soldiers? Everyone in camp over the age of 17 had to answer a list of questions. For Daddy and Mama, those were trick questions, especially for numbers 27 and 28. Daddy and Mama both thought that the two questions were stupid. The only honest answers were no and no. Those who answered yes were drafted by the government to fight for America and Europe. My parents, by answering firmly and honestly, were branded disloyal and forced to leave Camp Roar. We could be sent back across the country to a harsher camp called Camp Tula Lake in Northern California. Camp Tula Lake was called a segregation camp for disloyals. It was nothing like the lush and verdant swampland of Camp Roar. Tula Lake was a maximum security prison with 3 layers of barbed wire fences, sentry towers equipped with machine guns pointed right at us, and a huge rambling tank patrols. Tula Lake was the largest of the 10 prison camps and held the most inmates, more than 18,000 people. Half were children like Henry, Rico, and me. Once Mama began making a cozy home out of a tar paper barrack, Daddy specially ordered linoleum for our cold, dusty floor. I love being close to the mess hall because Henry and I could be the first in line for our meals. Poor Mama hated all the noise and the smells. Terrible stink, she complained. It's a trade-off. Daddy comforted her. Now we have 2 small rooms for the 5 of us. There were other pluses. Movies were shown at the mess hall. For a few hours, the movies in my imagination helped me escape our narrow lives. One afternoon, Henry and I saw a shaggy black dog behind a pile of vegetable crates. He looked so hungry, we convinced our cook, Mr. Kikutani, to give him a piece of wiener teriyaki. The dog gobbled it up so quickly we knew he was still hungry. We took him to our unit and begged Mama for cookies. The dog made a ruckus, but once he gave Mama a great big doggy smile, she let him stay. We had a new friend, our dog Blackie. We built a doghouse for him. He escorted us to school and patiently waited for us. He even made friends with Mr. Kikutani, who eventually sneaked tidbits for him after dinner. Smart dog, that Blackie. He made living in Tula Lake so much better. At Tula Lake, there were young men who were seething with anger at the government for calling them disloyal. They said, if you're going to treat us like the enemy, well then, we'll show you what kind of enemy you have to deal with. Each morning, the radicals jogged around the block, chanting, "Wasoi, wasoi, wasoi." Then they ran off and hid in their barracks. One night, angry soldiers came roaring into the camp with jeeps, their rifles aimed at us. They were looking for radicals, but more often than not, innocent men were thrown in jail. I remember hearing women crying and wailing. When I asked Daddy about the radicals, he said, in a democracy, the people have the right to assemble and protest. Half a world away, even more bewildering events were taking place. Young men who had answered yes to questions 27 and 28, brothers and cousins of the radicals, had become U.S. soldiers in the all-Japanese American 442nd Regimental Combat Team. They were wearing the same uniforms as the Sentry Tower guards staring down at us. They were fighting heroically on far-off European battlefields, carrying the American flag. In yet another part of the world, across the Pacific, unimaginable events were taking place as well. The atomic bomb had been dropped on the Japanese cities of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. The 2 bombings were the most ghastly devastation the world had ever experienced. We, in prison at Tula Lake, knew nothing about the bombings because newspapers and radios were forbidden. but there were vague, uncertain rumors that were painfully personal. Mama's parents had returned to Japan, to Hiroshima. Mama was frantic with worry. However, we are now adjusting to the news that the hard, terrible war was over. America was celebrating the victory. Suddenly, the government was releasing us from camp as abruptly as we had been imprisoned. After 4 years behind barbed wire, we had nothing because the U.S. government had taken everything. Each of us was given $25 and a one-way ticket anywhere in the United States. My daddy and mama said, let's start all over in Los Angeles. Even though they had heard that our old hometown was still hostile to Japanese Americans. Daddy left first to find a job in a place where we could stay. After 10 anxiety-filled weeks, Mama told us, we joined Daddy now in Los Angeles. We were excited and sad at the same time. Tule Lake had become home to us. Now we were leaving our friends, our community, the rugged scenery, and our beloved Blackie. It was a long night's train journey to Los Angeles. As the train got closer, Mama, Henry, Rico, and I saw magnificent buildings in the sky, and one soared above them all. That's Los Angeles City Hall, tallest building in the city, said Mama. That where Daddy and Mama married, she told us proudly. On the platform, Henry and I shouted, Daddy! Our enthusiastic hugs knocked him right over. We were all together, a family again, back in our hometown, ready to build our new future. I don't know what to do to get people to start caring about other people. I'm so sorry that so many of our American brothers and sisters have had to go through such horrible tragedies over and over again. It's not right. And it's not okay. I was in middle school when 9/11 happened. Everybody of Muslim, and to be honest, where I'm from, even Indian descent, and I don't mean indigenous Americans, I mean India, anybody from over there was immediately labeled the enemy. And I never understood that. Not everybody was there when that took place. We allow this hatred for others to overcome us. But the strange thing is that if the tables were reversed and it was these people who hate others so much, if this was happening to them, they wouldn't like it. They'd want to put a stop to it. It's easier to hate for some reason. That's too much energy. Bad energy. These things will never be okay. Ever. Sending people to internment camps, concentration camps, none of this is okay. Picking people up for protesting and sending them to a different state so they can't have the rights that they have, it's not okay. We are in the darker times of our history books right now. And it's only going to get darker. My heart breaks for anybody who's ever had to go through these things because of people who look like me. It's not okay, and it won't ever be okay. So before I go, I want you guys to remember, when you breathe kindness. And when you love wholeheartedly. Let's bring back compassion, empathy, understanding. We are so much more better when we come together, not just for one group, but for the rights of everybody. What did you guys think about this? I really appreciate him for sharing his story. It's just one story. There's so many more out there. I have so much respect for him. So let me know what y'all think.